Everyone, I'm Sonali Kelkar from City International School, and today we are going to do transportation in humans from the chapter Life Processes. So let's start the video. Okay, now you must have heard that in our cells in our body there are different cells, right? And in different cells there are metabolic activities taking place, and these in with the as a result of metabolic activities there are certain waste organisms, or sorry, waste product that is formed, and there are certain nutrients requirement for these cells. Now how does these materials travel in our body? These materials travel through the circulatory system, which is nothing but a transportation of our body, right? So let's start with the human circulatory system. Okay, human circulatory system, it consists of arteries, veins, capillaries, and most important, it consists of blood, right? And how the blood is pumped. So this blood is pumped throughout the body by a most important organ, that is a pumping station, that is nothing but heart. Okay, so and why do we need blood? There are many requirements of blood. Okay, why? Because blood is very essential to take nutrients, minerals, hormones, enzymes from one place to another place, right? And it also takes lymphocytes, monocytes, okay, which kills bacteria, right? So we need the well efficient circulatory system, because we are multicellular organism. Our body is a very complex body, so it requires a very well efficient circulatory system. Okay, right. Now what are the different features of circulatory system? So human circulatory system, as we know, it consists of blood, heart, blood vessels and lymph. Okay, and then we have a closed circulatory system. What do you mean by closed circulatory system? It means the blood flows in our body through different vessels. That vessels can be artery, vein or blood capillaries. Okay, so it is not an open system just like in insects, right? And then our circulatory system is double circulation system, right? That means, in a very simple term, it means the blood comes and goes out from the heart twice, right? This we are going to know more about in details in the further slides. Now human heart is four chambers heart, right? We have two auricles and two ventricles, right? Then our circulatory system has wide network of blood vessels, right? Then we have the primary function of blood vessels is to transport oxygenated blood and nutrient to all parts of body. It is also tasked with collecting metabolic waste to be expelled from the body. So metabolic waste or nitrogenous waste should be collected by blood, and it should be eliminated out from the body, right? So all nitrogenous waste is taken to the kidney, that we are going to do further in excretory system, and how these waste products are thrown out from our body, because they are very harmful for our body, right? Now organs of circulatory system. So we have four main organs of circulatory system. Heart. Blood is technically not an organ, it is a fluid connective tissue, right? But it is a very important, definitely, uh, part of circulatory system. Then we have blood vessels, right? And then lymphatic system. Let's do the blood. Let's know more about blood. So blood, as we all know, it is a fluid connective tissue. It forms a vital part of human circulatory system. Vital means is an important part of a human circulatory system. Blood circulates nutrients, hormones, minerals, and other essential components to different parts of body where we have done. Okay, now blood flows through a specific set of pathways called blood vessels, right? Now blood constitute or composed of what? Now our blood composed of two main things. That is the liquid part of the blood, which is nothing but plasma, which is composed of 90% of water, right? Plasma composed of 90% of water, right? And red blood cells. Now plasma is a fluid part of blood, and there is something called solid constituent or the solid part of blood, which are nothing but red blood corpuscles. More specifically is red blood corpuscles, white blood corpuscles. Red blood corpuscles are also known as erythrocytes. White blood corpuscles also known as leukocyte, and platelets, right? The platelets are very important. So function of platelets we are going to discuss further. As we all know that red blood cells, they have hemoglobin. Hemo is a iron content of red blood, and globulin is a protein. Okay, so the combination of these two words is known as hemoglobin. This iron has a affinity towards oxygen, so it carries oxygen, okay, from lungs to the different cells, each and every cells of our body, right? And it takes carbon dioxide from the cells and give to lungs, where there is exchange of gases takes place and oxygen is exhaled out, carbon dioxide is exhaled out from our body, right? So the types of cells, there are three types of blood cells. Let's have a look. Okay, RBCs, erythrocyte. Erythro means red. Okay, so that is because they are red in color, so erythrocytes. Mainly involved in transporting oxygen, right? And nutrients. White blood cells, leukocytes. Leuco means white in color, so leukocytes. Then this, they are very important for the immunity of body, right? In white blood cells, we have lymphocytes and monocytes, which engulf bacteria, which kills pathogens, right? Okay, so we don't have to go in detail of white blood cells, because again the white blood cells, in that we have granulated and agranulated white blood cells, right? And granulated, neutrophils, eosinophils and basophils are there, and agranulated lymphocytes and monocytes. In all white blood cells, it is a defense system of our body, we can say, right? Platelets is also known as thrombocytes, children. It's always good to have extra knowledge. Over here, platelets is given in your book, but thrombocytes is not given. But still, it's always, you know, better to have a good knowledge of your subject. It will help you in your future exams, right? Okay, so platelets are cells that helps to form clots and stops bleeding, right? So they act on the site of an injury or a wound. Clear? So how there is a long process of formation of clots. So we don't have that process, but we have the use of platelets. Okay, so that we are going to see. Now here, let's see the component of blood. If I take blood and centrifuge that, take blood in a test tube and centrifuge the test tube, I will see three different layers, right? The first layer is of plasma, okay, which is less denser, so that is why this is at the top. So 55% plasma, okay. And now what is the constituent of plasma? Plasma constitute of water, ions, protein, nutrients, wastes and gases, right? And the middle layer, where you will find platelets and white blood cells. These are the platelets, very small cells, platelets and white blood cells, right? And this is what is our red blood cells. 44% red blood cells. These are the red blood cells, RBCs. Okay. Now coming to the maintenance by platelets. What is the basic function of platelet, right? Now how are platelets? They are colorless tiny blood cells without nucleus, right? And circulate through the bloodstream. Now what happens when you get injury? These platelets, okay, they get breaks down, okay, they break down. And uh, there are certain processes which takes place and which helps to form a clot. Okay, so these clots are formed with fibrin, which is present in blood. Okay, then there is a leakage of blood can also reduce the efficiency of pumping system due to the loss of pressure. So it is very important to clot the blood, because if the blood is flowing continuously from your, okay, from a cut or from the injured part, if it doesn't clot, then there will be a loss of pressure, loss of blood pressure, right? And this loss of blood pressure can be very dangerous, right? So it is very important to have a clot where the blood is leaking, so that blood will stop leaking from, or blood will stop bleeding from that particular point. Okay, platelets circulate around the body and clot the blood whenever and wherever necessary. Here I want to tell you one thing: calcium ion are very important for the clotting of blood. Okay, it plays a very important role. Okay, now let's have a look of blood vessels. We mainly have three type of blood vessels. Arteries, I've written arteries in red just to make you understand that in arteries oxygenated blood flows, right? Oxygenated blood is always bright red in color, whereas deoxygenated blood which flows through veins, they are little dark in color, right? So arteries uh, and veins, they are the two primary type of blood vessels, right? And as arteries takes blood, A for artery and A for away, this is a clue. So it takes blood away from a heart. A for artery, A for away. That means arteries always take blood away from heart. Arteries transpose oxygenated blood except the pulmonary artery. Okay, pulmonary artery. We are going to know more about pulmonary artery, but this is the only exceptional artery which carries deoxygenated blood. Whereas all the arteries in our body, okay, they carry oxygenated blood. Arteries are usually thick, okay, they are elastic, and arteries divide into small network of blood vessels called capillaries. See, arteries always divide, redivide and redivide, and they form a very small network of blood vessels called capillaries. Okay children, this is a very important part because it's just opposite of vein. Now coming to the vein, veins are the blood vessels that carry deoxygenated blood except the pulmonary vein. Okay, and vein always carry blood towards the heart. Vein always carry blood towards the heart. Okay, unlike artery, right? Veins are thin. Veins are thin and veins are also little elastic. They are present closer to the surface of skin. Yes, arteries are deep seated, except in few places. Otherwise, arteries are deep seated. Okay, and the veins are a little bit closer to the surface, right? Except the pulmonary veins, all veins carry oxygenated blood in entire body. One more thing here I want to add: veins have valves in it. Okay, why do they have valves? Because the veins which are coming from the lower part of your body, they are taking blood against the gravitational force, right? So to stop the backflow of the blood valves are there. Okay. So here are the structure of blood vessels. So I want to show you how can you differentiate artery, veins and capillary while comparing the structure. Arteries are thick. Okay, they are elastic. Why they are elastic? Because they have to sustain the pressure of blood. See, when heart pumps blood, it goes to aorta. Okay, and through aorta, when aorta divides in many branches and it gives blood to different parts of the body. So blood is not coming in a smooth flowing way. It is coming with pressure, because blood is pumping out by heart and it is coming with pressure in arteries. So okay, the blood is flowing in spurt. It means it's flowing with little bit of pressure, right, in arteries. So it has to be elastic and it has to be thick, whereas veins doesn't have to be thick. So veins are little thin, and if you see here, valve are here. Okay, so this valve has two functions. First, it to avoid backflow of blood. Okay, and the other one is it makes the flow of the blood in one particular direction. Clear? Then you can see these capillaries. If this part is artery, as I told you, artery divides and they form capillaries. Okay, they divide, and when they form capillaries are almost single epithelial cell uh, vessel. It is made up of single squamous epithelial cell. This single epithelial cell helps in the diffusion of gases as well as diffusion of nutrients and waste product. Clear? Okay, so diffusion of gases, as you know, it takes place in lungs, and even in yeah, it takes place in lungs, in air sacs. Okay, and nutrients diffusion through capillaries. So this single epithelial cells works like a semi-permeable membrane through which diffusion can takes place. Okay, so these capillaries, once the diffusion takes place, right, also the oxygen uh, if the oxygen is given out, carbon dioxide is there. Okay, and then these are nothing but veins, right? So when these capillaries join, when these capillaries start joining, they form vein, and the smallest vein is venule, and the smallest artery is arteriole. Right, students? Right? Okay, so once the exchange of gases takes place, nutrients takes place, okay, again they take away carbon dioxide and nutrient, right? Deoxygenated blood and waste products are also coming here, and then again it will go to the heart, and from there it will go to different part where the again exchange of gas takes place. Again the oxygen will come inside and carbon dioxide will be expelled out. Okay, and again there will be a nutrient given to the cells, and the waste product will be coming back to the blood. So this all takes place like this. Okay, now coming to our pump, the heart. Okay, now what about the heart? A heart is a muscular organ located in the chest cavity. Okay, it is located between the two lungs. The exact location is. And what about the size of the heart? It is as big as our fist. Okay, now uh, we have heard, you must have heard that heart is located on left hand side. So it is not like that. Okay, heart is not located on left hand side. It is just the lower part of the heart which is tilted little towards left hand side. eh? And moreover, this lower part is made up of thick muscles, because this is a ventricle part which is made up of thick muscles. This part when get contract, blood goes out from here. Okay, ventricle. Okay, so especially the left ventricle is more thicker as compared to the right ventricle. So we feel that heart is on left hand side, but that is absolutely wrong. Now heart is situated in thoracic region. Heart is covered, enveloped by pericardium. Heart is covered by a membrane called pericardium, and there is a fluid between the membrane and the heart, that is pericardial fluid. Okay, children. Now human heart is separated in four chambers. We have four chambers in human heart. We have four chambers, right? This is the right. Make sure that over here, this is the right part of heart. This is at the left part of heart. Let me divide it. Okay, like this, right? This is corresponding to your right hand side. Okay, this is corresponding to right hand side, and this is corresponding to left hand side. So this is right part of your heart, right? And this is atrium. Okay, right atrium, we can say right atrium, right? And this is right ventricle. Atrium, singular is atrium, and plural is atria. Okay, so we usually say atrium. So right atrium, and this is left atrium, right? And this is left ventricle, the lower part, left ventricle. This is left atrium. Clear? Now what happened? Blood comes from the inferior vena cava and superior vena cava. Well, this is inferior vena cava, this is inferior vena cava, this is superior vena cava. So deoxygenated blood comes in the right atrium. From right atrium, okay, blood goes to the right ventricle, right? When it goes to the right ventricle, when there is a contraction. See, in biology we use a term systole, systole for contraction. So where is, which part of the heart is getting contract? It is atrium, so we call it systolic atrium, right? And when this atrium get contract, blood goes to the right ventricle, right? And when the ventricle gets contract, okay, when ventricles get contract, from there blood goes out through pulmonary artery. A for artery, A for away, remember? So this is a pulmonary artery, right? It is getting divided over here. This is a pulmonary artery. Okay, this pulmonary artery is arising, from the right ventricle, right? And then it get divided and it goes to two part of lungs, two lobes of lung, right lobe and the left lobe of lungs, right? And then when uh, left atrium contracts, then blood goes to the left ventricle, right? And when left ventricle contracts, what happens? Blood goes from left ventricle through the aorta to the different parts of the body. Then aorta gets divided, right? Fine. And these are the pulmonary veins. Okay, pulmonary veins. You can see these are the pulmonary veins. They are getting blood from lungs, right? They are getting blood from lungs. So this blood is oxygenated blood. So pulmonary vein is exceptional vein, as I already told you. Pulmonary veins contain oxygenated blood, okay, carries oxygenated blood, whereas pulmonary artery, okay, carries deoxygenated blood, okay, and it takes to the lungs, right? So these are the options. So wherever you find pulmonary artery, pulmonary vein, so the pulmonary, it's an optional word, okay, it is optional. You can remember in that way. Fine, children. Okay, pumping action of heart. I have already discussed about the pumping action of heart, right? Blood flows from your right atrium into the right ventricle. Here I want to tell you, can you see this part? This is nothing but uh, tricuspid valves. These valves make sure that blood comes from right atrium to the right ventricle. That is, it maintains the direction of the blood flow, as well as it maintains that the blood should not go back. So backflow of the blood is avoided by tricuspid valve, right? And here a bicuspid valve on the left part of the heart. And the whole part of the heart, that is the whole heart, is divided into the right and left part by a septum. This is a septum which is dividing whole heart into right and left part. This is my right part of the heart and this is the left part of the heart. And on the right part of the heart, you will always find deoxygenated blood. So deoxygenated blood present on the right part of the heart, and oxygenated blood always present on the left part of the heart. Clear, children? In human beings, it is make sure by the nature that the oxygenated and deoxygenated blood should never come in contact, right? Is it fine? Okay, and these valves are like at their places, they are at their places by muscles called chordae tendineae. This muscle, these muscles are chordae tendineae, which helps to keep valves at their position, right? Why? Because see, when there is a ventricle systole, see, when I'm talking about ventricle systole, that means both the ventricle, that is right ventricle and the left ventricle, both ventricles contract together. And when I'm telling atrium systole, that means both the atria, that is right atrium and the left atrium, they contract together. Okay, they contract together. So when ventricle contracts, what happens? Blood from right ventricle goes to the pulmonary artery, right? While going through the pulmonary artery, these valves should get closed immediately, otherwise the blood will go back, isn't it? Same case is here. When left ventricle contract, blood goes through aorta to different part of the body, right? So when blood goes through aorta, there's a lot of pressure develop over here. So blood shouldn't go back to the left atrium. So these valves are held very tightly by chordae tendineae. So these are the simple things that you should know about heart. Double circulation. Now human beings have a double circulation. As I told you in a very simple word, that blood circulate through the heart twice, right? So that is why we call it double circulation. It is very important to have this type of circulation in a well advanced animals like mammals, and human being of course is a mammal, right? So it is very important to have a well advanced blood circulatory system, and this is a double circulatory system which is really advanced. Okay, and main advantage of double circulation is that every tissue in the body has a steady supply of oxygenated blood and it does not get mixed with deoxygenated blood. Now coming to the diagram of double circulatory system, right? So let's start from the A part, that is, these are the vein, major vein. Okay, these are the major vein here. Okay, here the oxygen is given to cells, and then there is an exchange of oxygen and nutrients, and then once it exchange, oxygen and nutrients get exchanged, then carbon dioxide and waste products are remaining, which is collected by the smallest vein. What is the name of smallest vein? Venule, right? And these veins join together and they form a big vein, right? And this big vein is nothing but from down part of the body, it is inferior vena cava, or we call posterior vena cava. From the upper part of the body, it is anterior vena cava or superior vena cava, right? So through these veins, vena cava, blood is coming to the heart. This is deoxygenated blood, right? So deoxygenated blood is coming through the heart, and from heart through pulmonary artery. It is going away from the heart and giving to the lungs. In lungs, there will be an exchange of gases. Carbon dioxide will be exhaled out, which is present in deoxygenated blood, and oxygen will be taken inside the blood capillaries, and we will get now oxygenated blood. Now this oxygenated blood from lungs will again enter to the heart, right? Okay, it is entering to my heart, and from heart this oxygenated blood is again going out. Okay, and is going out and supplied to the rest of the body, right? So this is how we see that twice the blood is coming inside from pulmonary from vena cava, interior and inferior and superior vena cava. The blood is coming inside, then blood is coming inside from pulmonary vein also. So twice the blood is coming inside, and from pulmonary artery the blood is going out, and from aorta also the blood is going out. So twice the blood is coming inside and twice the blood is going out. So it is making a double circulation, right? Now because the upper circulation from where blood goes to lungs, and from lungs blood is coming back to heart. This is done by the pulmonary. This is pulmonary artery and pulmonary vein. So we call this particular circle of blood is known as pulmonary circuit. It is very simple to remember because it consists of majorly consists of pulmonary artery and pulmonary vein. So this particular circuit is known as pulmonary circuit, right? And what about the rest, when the aorta is taking blood to rest of the body, right? So this is known as systemic circuit. Okay, systemic circuit takes blood to the different parts of the body, and then it collects deoxygenated blood from the different part of the body and supply to the heart. So that is why we can say that we have a blood double circulatory system. Circulation of blood in animals, in mammals and the blood in mammals and birds, circulatory system is a double circulatory system because our body needs to adjust the temperature. Okay, so to maintain the temperature, in fact we have a constant 37 degrees Celsius temperature, so it has to be maintained, so that require a lot of energy. Okay, it for energy we know that oxygen is required. So for a sufficient supply of oxygen we have a double circulatory system, and in our body it has been made sure that deoxygenated and oxygenated blood is always separated, right? Unlike amphibians, in most of the reptiles, the heart is three chambered, right? And there is a little bit a mixing of oxygenated and deoxygenated bloodstream. In fish they have two chambered hearts. Okay, fishes have two chambered hearts, and the blood is pumped to the gills, is oxygenated there and passes directly to the rest of the body. So here you will find that it is a single circuit blood circulation, right? So thus the blood flows through the heart only once. So this make not double circulation, it is a single circulation blood flow, right? Now coming to the blood pressure, you must have heard about the blood pressure, children, right? So we have a normal blood pressure which is about 90 to 120 millimeter Hg, right? So this is a systolic blood pressure. Okay, ventricular systolic and ventricular diastolic. As I told you, systolic is when the contraction takes place. Diastole means when the chambers are relaxed, okay, dilated, relaxed, okay. So ventricular diastolic blood pressure, the normal range of diastolic blood pressure is 60 to 80 mmHg, right? So on the numerator, the normal is to 120 mmHg, on the denominator 60 mmHg, right? But the range is 60 to 80 considered normal, and the upper range is 90 to 120 mmHg is normal. Now, you must have heard people suffering with high blood pressure. So high blood pressure is nothing but hypertension, right? And there is a machine or the instrument which measure blood pressure, okay, is uh, this one is a sphygmomanometer, right, which is used to measure blood pressure. Right. Coming to the last part of blood, lymph. Lymph is another type of fluid. Just like a blood, lymph is another type of fluid. Okay, lymph also flows in different vessels we call lymphatic vessels. Now, what exactly the lymph is? Okay, lymph is uh, uh, it is something which is colorless and it contains less protein, right? See, when blood flows through the capillaries, uh, other than the RBCs, WBCs and proteins and the nutrients, they comes out through blood capillaries because it is not possible to provide oxygen and nutrient to each and every cell through capillaries. Capillaries cannot reach to each and every cell, right? So the tissue fluid, the tissue fluid, we call that uh, the blood coming out through the part of the blood which comes out through the capillaries, other than RBCs, WBCs, nutrients, proteins, carbon dioxide, all comes out, squeeze out from the capillaries, and then it flood cells with the tissue fluid. We call it tissue fluid, and these tissue fluid later they are drained into a lymphatic capillary. They are collected into the lymphatic capillaries. So we have a different system of vessels, that is lymphatic uh, vessels, or a lymphatic system. Okay, and the biggest lymphatic organs is spleen and tonsils. Spleen and tonsils are different lymphatic organs, right? So now what is the function of lymph? Function of lymph is to carry absorbed digested fat from intestine, and it also drains excess fluid from extracellular space back into the blood. Okay, once the tissue fluid comes out of that capillary, okay, and it gives oxygen and nutrient to cells, and then the carbon dioxide and the waste material from the cell is given back to the tissue fluid. Then this tissue fluid is collected into the lymph, and later on this lymph pour the tissue fluid or the lymphatic fluid into the veins, right? Particularly big veins, vena cava, superior and inferior vena cava. Okay, now lymph, composition of lymph, it composed of water, and the solid component of lymph is are proteins, then fats, carbohydrate. It also constitutes urea, creatinine, chlorides, inorganic phosphorus, calcium, enzyme, and antibodies are also present. So let's see the function of lymph. It supplies nutrition and oxygen to those parts where blood cannot reach. Okay, so it drains away excess tissue fluid. So excess tissue fluid is also collected because this tissue fluid has to go back to the blood vessels, right? So lymph returns proteins to blood from the tissue spaces. Fats from the intestine are also absorbed through lymphs. The lymphocytes and monocytes of lymphs act as a defensive cells of body, right? And the lymph also removes bacteria from tissues. This lymphocytes, monocytes helps to eat bacteria. It helps to kill bacteria through the process of phagocytosis, right? So this is how the lymph is very important in our body. So you can see here the lymph vessels. There are lymph vessels, okay, and there are different lymph nodes also in our in different parts of our body. Okay, underarms over here, underarms, and even at the joining of thigh, right? There are lymph nodes. Then tonsils, I have told you, it's a lymph node, and spleen is the biggest lymph organ, right? So this is all about today's session. Thank you, student, and practice the topic.